This is a video of European starlings flocking off the coast of England in what's called a murmuration. They do this every spring. The birds move through the air like a liquid, perfectly even, impossibly smooth, apparently unconstrained by the wind or any other physical force. Every so often, droplets of a couple dozen birds tear off, roll around, and rejoin. In fleeting moments, they form shapes. An ocarina accepts new birds and becomes, to my eye, the province of Nova Scotia, then refines into an oval, and then shimmers into nothing. For a second, it's like the starlings aren't even there. They've been replaced with this light gray haze over the water. Even knowing logically that the flock must be there, it registers more like a ghost. I didn't take this video, a guy named Stephen Royal did. I happened across it while doom scrolling on a site I realistically should not be using anymore. And I can't help but notice that for something filmed on a modern smartphone, the quality is awful. No disrespect to Stephen here, he's a good photographer. He just happens to be at a huge disadvantage because murmurations are almost impossible to film. If you know a thing or two about digital video, you might have already guessed why this is. Cameras have limited processing power and viewers have limited internet speeds, so the videos we watch online are compressed to take up a lot less space. What that means in practice is that a software looks for patterns in a video and then generalizes based on those patterns. If a car passes through the frame, just drag its pixels left to right. If the sky isn't changing much over the course of a video, don't bother rebuilding it from scratch over and over. Make it once and then note the changes. Under these constraints, the easiest thing to render is a single, unchanging color. It's blue. It's blue, not much to say. The most complex is noise. Each pixel is a different random color that changes every frame, which makes every frame completely unrelated to the one before it. Compressing this well is impossible. With far too little space to display each pixel accurately, the image stutters. Portions become undifferentiated blobs. If you zoom in, you'll notice the software is forced to invent little patterns where none exist just to get by. Seen from the right angle, a murmuration comes closer to white noise than almost anything in nature. Just about any video you'll find has moments where it disintegrates into chaos. Big enough flocks turn into something like TV static. Even when they fill up the screen, it's hard to tell they're birds at all. They're pure light, new every frame, moving by some logic we're utterly blind to. This is what makes murmurations a common object of wonder. That intense feeling of recognition that comes when we're faced with something much greater than ourselves, often something we don't understand. Wonder is not inherently positive. It can be tinged with admiration, surprise, or fear. Honestly, watching this video, I feel a bit of all three, and the sketchy video quality only heightens that. The set of technologies that created and then decided to serve me this video are some of the most powerful in the world. Their pull has toppled governments, swallowed millions of human lifespans, and destroyed consensus reality as we once knew it. To see it all brought to its knees by something so simple, I don't know, it's humbling. As a species, humans' relationship with wonder is surprisingly strained. I say surprisingly because, come on, this shit rules. Early Christian thinkers like St. Augustine praised wonder as a pious emotion, a recognition of one's smallness on the backdrop of God's boundless universe. But during the scientific revolution in the 1600s, that idea started getting a lot more pushback. As Lisa Sedaris explains in her book Consecrating Science, my main source for this video,
wonder might be content to dwell wherever it was, to marvel and gawk rather than get to work investigating its objects. The term Descartes used to describe this stunned or stalled mental state was astonishment, an excess of wonder. The roots of this word suggest turning to stone.
Engaging with the world scientifically asks us to take a bit more of an active role. It's not enough just to admire. We should work to understand the world. Wonder has long been linked with ignorance, which puts it in tension with that goal. Some of today's most famous scientists view wonder at nature as indulgent, foolish, and to be avoided as much as possible. The biggest champion of this idea is Richard Dawkins, the professional atheist slash theoretically biologist who, despite having written several books with wonder in the title, seems more interested in curiosity. In Dawkins' work, wonder's only value is that it gets us asking questions. Why, for example, do birds swarm so intensely? He reasons that when we answer that question, our ignorance on the topic disappears, and with it goes that mouth agape feeling that got it all started. The hope is that this process makes us aware of new things we don't understand. We may even get to feel another little spark of wonder at the unknown and be compelled to dig even deeper. But that spark is not the point. Destroying it is the point. Lisa Sedaris calls this approach serial wonder. I'm sure it's useful for scientists, but for the rest of us, it's a weirdly hostile stance on the world. Dawkins doesn't want this, or this, or this to mean anything. He wants us to acknowledge it and then move on as quickly as possible. You have to keep going. You have to learn it all. Banish mystery. You know, like TikTok.
I'm dipping nuggets you've never heard of into sources you could never understand.
And I'm not talking about nuggets.
Right now, the prevailing strategy for blowing up on social media is to leave people guessing. A lot of the content I get served seems explicitly designed to confuse and disorient me. Snippets of arguments I'm not privy to, posts in languages I don't speak, movie clips that start smack in the middle of a scene. We live in the era of the vague post. When we spend a couple minutes trying to parse what a post means, read every comment in search of answers, or visit the account's page for context, that's engagement, baby. It ticks all the algorithm's boxes. In turn, the post is shown to more users who will see a higher view count on the post and assume there must be something they're missing. Posts can go viral this way, even if not a single viewer knows what they mean. Actually, even if they don't mean anything. This feedback loop often amplifies totally mundane content that just happens to be vague. Random people are thrust into the spotlight by a video they made for like 2 friends, and then frustrated viewers storm the comments demanding context. I don't think anybody likes vague posts. A whole genre of meme has emerged to call them out. But they just work on us so well. When platforms stopped showing us mostly people we follow and moved toward algorithmic feeds, hey, what's that bell doing there? Wonder what that does. They became vastly more popular. More people joined and started spending more time there. Why is that? What's being gained in that changeover? Vagueness. Choosing not to show people context means you can serve them only the good stuff, the most immediately striking moments without any lead up. Doing so builds intrigue. Each video gestures at a brand new perspective, a whole bizarre world into which the app might be a window. It makes a platform feel like a vibrant, unknowably large ecosystem. Every swipe offers us a chance to be new again, a chance to see the world through the eyes of a child. What's happening here? What does this mean? But why did they make this? But why? But why? But why? It's so easy to encounter things that seem like nothing you've ever seen before, things none of your rules or logics can be applied to. That ignorance primes us to experience wonder, or at least to think wonder might be achieved if we stay on the platform. So we investigate, and we find that we've been had. More often than not, there was nothing special there in the first place. This is the process of serial wonder in a nutshell. You find something that amazes you, demystify it, lose interest, and then start looking for the next source of amazement. This cycle trains us to find wonder only in the gaps of our knowledge and in the process of acquiring that knowledge. For Richard Dawkins, that process might be science, but for the rest of us, it's probably our phones. It's an approach to wonder that relies entirely on a thing being unknown which means that it's not even about what we're looking at. It can be applied just as easily to a supernova as a petty gripe about a TV show. These things are not the same, but they're both new, and that's all that serial wonder really has us value. Engaging with the world this way makes me sad. I love learning. It's my favorite part of this job, to find fascinating things and share them with people. But for the first time, Dawkins has made that feel fraught. I mean, when I research a topic, I'm not setting out to destroy the feeling that made me care about it. I'd hoped the feeling could be maintained, even shared with others. But as someone who spends a lot of time on her phone, I have to admit that knowledge does seem to take some of the magic out of a thing. If we have a choice between St. Augustine and Richard Dawkins, between ignorant wonder and knowing disillusion, I guess I'll go with disillusion, but I resent being made to choose. I guess I thought eventually I'd find something that was still sacred up close. After 30 years studying flocks of birds across Britain, trying to understand how they moved in such perfect unison, Edmund Sellis came to a startling conclusion. He collected his hundreds of pages of notes, taken while observing starlings, goldfinches, rooks, terns, puffins, and more, and organized them into a book that would introduce the world to his groundbreaking theory. In 1931, that book was published. Thought Transference, or What, in Birds. He thought they were reading each other's minds. Now this guy, mind you, was not some hack. Thought Transference, or What, was, by my count, his 19th nature book, 7th just about birds. He had genuinely considered every prior theory of bird flocking and was convinced that all of them were wrong. He saw no way it could rely on things like vision or communication. Movement so graceful, so unlike anything else, had to have, at its heart, a system working beyond the limits of existing science.
Each mass of them turned, wheeled, reversed the order of their flight, changed in one shimmer from brown to grey, from dark to light, as though all the individuals composing them had been component parts of one individual organism. For myself, I cannot see how, on ordinary principles of psychology, these simultaneous movements of a whole flock of birds are brought about. The facts as given do not allow of ordinary sense action unless we suppose a speed of this kind so great as to make the real sequences invisible to the eye. But this, I think, is against the general evidence.
He was wrong, of course. Birds cannot read each other's... You don't need me to explain this. But people today, when faced with a murmuration, still think along the same lines. They're so intense and bizarre, it's hard not to project a transcendent meaning onto them, not to take them as a glimpse of something that usually works outside our view. Those who believe in God take murmurations as proof of his benevolent hand. Those who think we live inside a computer simulation read them as bugs in the code. They're not actually a mystery. This is a program written in 1986 by a guy named Craig Reynolds. He worked in CGI, and he wanted a way to model flocks of birds for movie backgrounds, that kind of thing. He called his program Boids. Some great names in this video. In order to replicate the flocking behavior that had eluded scientists for centuries, Reynolds had each bird follow 3 simple rules. 1, try not to collide with obstacles, including its neighbors. 2, try to match its neighbor's velocity. And 3, try to stay close to them. In other words, each bird sees what the birds around it are doing and makes slight adjustments. These adjustments then ripple out to its immediate neighbors, and then to their neighbors, and so on. The flock has no leader. It may not even have a plan, but a plan isn't needed. A murmuration can act as a unit, dodging predators and swelling into these shimmering, living forms, without any one bird meaning for that to happen. If the name didn't tip you off, Boids is not a very sophisticated program. You can store it in a few kilobytes. You can run it in your browser, but it works. Not perfectly. There have been a few improvements over the years, but shockingly well. My point is that no magic is in play here. The genuine force of nature that is a murmuration, this thing that blacks out the sun, that makes cameras look like a joke, that convinces scientists of the existence of mind reading, can be summed up pretty well in 3 short sentences. Before Richard Dawkins devoted his life to whatever this is, this was his exact field of study. He was a biologist who modeled animal behavior. And the same year Boids was written, he published a book that made essentially the same point I just made. Strange and complex phenomena can emerge from a few simple rules.
We have seen that living things are too improbable and too beautifully designed to have come into existence by chance. How then did they come into existence? The answer, Darwin's answer, is by gradual step-by-step transformations from simple beginnings, from primordial entities sufficiently simple to have come into existence by chance. Each successive change in the gradual evolutionary process was simple enough, relative to its predecessor, to have arisen by chance. But the whole sequence of cumulative steps constitutes anything but a chance process when you consider the complexity of the final end product relative to the original starting point.
Dawkins doesn't have much interest in phenomena for their own sake, but these rules put him head over heels. The goal of a lot of his writing is to take the wonder we feel at nature and help us understand it, not to appreciate its power, but to depreciate it. He thinks the really beautiful things are algorithms, equations, human knowledge, and that anyone who learns about them will naturally find the same conclusion. Now, I am not a fan of Richard Dawkins. I was, and then I turned 14. But until recently, my thinking on this topic was strikingly similar. While I've never been anti-wonder in this way, I did figure that as humans learn more about the world, wonder was on a steady, irreversible decline. So when that first murmuration video off the coast of England crossed my feed, my gut reaction, honestly, was sadness. There was a beauty there, but I got in my head about it, thinking about how in another time we might have considered this sacred, but now that we understand how and why things like this happen, their power has dwindled. But, okay, I'm gonna play you another one. If you can, I'll ask you to stop whatever else you're doing and watch this the whole way through with the volume turned up high. Now that you know how murmurations work, how does this feel? I can't speak for you, sound off in the comments, but for me, it turns out it feels the same. By Dawkins' logic, by my prior logic, this should just look like some logical birds doing logical things. But come on, this shit rules. Nothing could make this not rule. In Consecrating Science, Lisa Sedaris fully upended what I thought I knew. She says, despite the way we've thought about this for millennia, knowledge does not threaten wonder because wonder is not rooted in ignorance.
Were the world simply like a puppet show where one peeks behind the curtain to ascertain the cause of the puppet's motion, it might be foolish to continue marveling at the spectacle as though it were miraculous. But we do not inhabit such a universe, nor is knowledge of cause always what we seek when we desire to understand something or when we find it difficult to grasp. Wonder at the natural world is, at least in part, a visual and sensory experience. Why should it be destroyed by a casual account that does not itself directly participate in or affect what the senses perceive? There is no going behind it, as Hepburn notes. The explanation is not the experience.
The experience is the important thing, and the experience is still real. I saw the birds move through the air like one smooth muscle. I saw them maneuver too perfectly for a camera to see. That happened to me. After a lifetime of hearing from the religious and secular sides that wonder and knowledge are enemies, I basically took it for granted. It was almost the topic of this video. And then Sedaris's book pointed out that we feel wonder at things we understand all the time. Eclipses, rainbows. Last week, I got to hold my baby nephew for the first time, and I felt my mind go totally quiet in disbelief. And I do know how babies are made. I'll spare you the details. As Sedaris puts it, wonder may have less to do with how or what a thing is than that it is. When we catch a glimpse of a powerful natural system, we feel humbled and appreciative. It makes things we thought were mundane seem special and encourages us to care about them. No part of that is lost by learning the rules. If anything, the fact that such simple rules can produce something like this only deepens my appreciation. Now it feels like a gift. It didn't need to be so beautiful, but it is.
When witnessing a starling murmuration, the external phenomenon seems to mirror something inside myself, illuminating the universal bond we have with nature.
On social media, run-ins with the unknown almost never inspire the kind of wonder that lasts. Peeking behind the curtain usually reveals nothing was there in the first place. We only thought it was something special because it was unknown to us. Serial wonder, the kind offered by social media and Richard Dawkins, offers basically none of the upsides that wonder is supposed to. It doesn't make us feel connected to anything, doesn't call us to care for a vulnerable planet. If anything, it trains us to extract value from the world, whether that's the physical one or the virtual one. It makes us unempathetic, narrow-minded, and jaded. But not always. Sometimes, when algorithmically incentivized content is at its absolute worst, its most garish, its most baffling, its least identifiably human, I can't lie. It wins me back over. Slop. It's a broad term with a million definitions, but here's mine. Any piece of content so optimized to succeed in an algorithm that it's left with no trace of what makes art good. Creativity, meaning, aesthetic appeal, restraint. Slop is often AI generated, but it doesn't have to be. Early examples were those grotesque kids videos in the 2010s, and Family Guy clips played next to Subway Surfer footage, both of which I covered a few years ago. Back then, I said these videos work because they ignore human taste and appeal to less conscious processes. They play to the human response to bright colors, our thirst for the new, and I'd add now, our readiness to give ourselves over to intensity. I made my video on the Subway Surfers trend before we even had the word slop. Now it's inescapable. And people have gone from being troubled by it to a kind of resigned, ironic appreciation. The amount that we enjoy something so obviously worthless, it's funny. I have some very smart friends who watch slop videos, and their experience is only enhanced by a sense of, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Why do I like this? A lot of art taps into these unconscious desires we have, but slop follows them to the ends of the earth and tunes out everything else, often to a point of total illegibility. Why does this clip from the pit have an overlay listing the top 10 words spoken? And why is it all things like the and? Why is this woman hot gluing crayons to the bottom of a flip-flop? There is no why. That's not how it works. We engage with slop for basic, primal reasons. An algorithm takes that as approval and shows it to viewers like us who watch it too. People looking to make a quick buck notice what's getting views and then make new videos to those specifications, maybe with slight changes to stand out. Nobody, at any stage of the process, is making creative choices. The videos take their specific form almost by accident. Slop is the collective unconscious of an entire platform. Its design features, its algorithm, and its users' desires. Desires we possess but rarely examine, in which the best slop, by which I mean the worst slop, reveals to us. We make these videos together, without even meaning to, and find ourselves transfixed when they cross our feeds, not because there's something we're missing, really, what you see is what you get, but out of a recognition that a few simple rules can create an enormous, overwhelming, near incomprehensible display. You know, like birds, far away. Before I go, remember that book I mentioned, Thought Transference in Birds? Understandably, it's not easy to come by, but I did track down a copy in a rare book collection, and it's kind of amazing. It's this eccentric, rich old guy telling you about every time he saw birds for 30 years. But it's really funny, and the prose is genuinely breathtaking. It's like gorgeous. In the spirit of slowing down, appreciating nature, I decided to record myself reading the first 20 or 30 pages of this book in a very chill, laid-back environment. You can treat it as an audiobook or use it as a sleep aid. In any case, you'll find it over on Nebula, where we are building out a serious catalog of original programming. While you're over there, I also recommend Lindsay Ellis's latest. It's called Is There Still a Very Special Place in Hell for Matt Stone and Trey Parker? And it basically chronicles South Park's long, flawed history with politics. It tracks the show from its war-hawkish early days to the 2010s culture wars, where it produced episodes for and against human rights, up to its latest seasons, which are staunchly anti-Trump. South Park is synonymous with this kind of ironically detached worldview, right? Everything is equally stupid and equally deserving of mockery. With things how they are these days, the creators seem to have realized you can't really get away with that anymore. So as an autopsy of that worldview, I find Lindsay's video really fascinating. Nebula, to me, is the place I go to get away from the noise, the slop. When I see a video on there, I can trust that it's made with care by human beings who value my time and have something real to offer. It is genuinely my go-to nowadays, especially now that we've got Tom Scott on board. A full decade ago, his video on YouTube compression is what got me thinking about a lot of these themes for the first time. Sharing a platform, kind of weird, very cool. If you want to watch my bonus video, watch Lindsay's many exclusives, or catch Tom's new show before it comes out on YouTube, you can sign up with my link, go.nebula.tv/LilyAlexander, for a full 50% off an annual membership. It's $30 a year or $250 a month for beautiful Lily viewers the world over. Okay, bye.